Now this is sort of a transition from, hey, they're putting some rules on you, but now all of a sudden they're taking property.
New rules every day. Every day we had new rules, right? Thank God they didn't take our homes away. That's one thing. The businesses were all taken away.
And did that happen like to everyone in the town at the same time?
All the Jewish businesses were taken away, yes.
You continue on. You say life is not normal at all. News has spread that Germany is at war with Poland. No one knows what will come next. Now we're going to witness now Max go through the same kind of similar transition.
Right.
This is Max. It's the fall of 1937 now, and after just a few weeks back at home from a relaxing summer at Grandma Schwede's farm, I realized that something is very different. It's not just nerves about returning to school. The adults are whispering in the grocery store lines, while washing laundry in the basement and at Dad's store. Even Mom and Dad wait for us to leave the room to talk. Something is not right. I know Fred senses it as well, so we ask Mom and Dad what is going on. It seems there is growing concern about Adolf Hitler, who has a hatred for all Jews, and that there is a possibility for war. One day, Dad comes home from work to tell us that there are yellow Jewish stars and signs painted on the windows of his store that say Judenraus, meaning Jews, get out of here.
Mm-hmm. Your own stores.
Fast forward a little bit. The next day, Dad informs us that the Germans came to his liquor store and took all its contents. He was ordered not to return. Fred and I are jumping up and yelling, they can't do that. He orders us to sit down and listen. He continues saying that throughout the ordeal, people were throwing rocks and calling him a dirty Jew. He had no choice but to walk away. Dad wants us to understand that we are in no position to resist the Germans. Doing so could have serious consequences. He will now become a traveling liquor salesman. And you go on. Max goes on. Dad continues to try and move the paperwork along for emigration to the U.S. So he had realized we got to get out of here.
Right.
And he starts putting through the paperwork to get out of Germany and get to the U.S. And it's taking a lot of time. It's a bureaucracy. Max says here, Dad is even more eager now to get us out of Germany. He has completed the paperwork for the entire family to move to the United States with the help of his relatives in San Francisco. Even with their help, there are many hurdles to jump. The paper takes longer than Dad thinks they should, so he is anxious, although there's nothing more he can do to speed up the process. In September of 1938, after another fun summer in Poland, we prepare again to return to school. Fred's new school, and Fred is Max's brother. I failed to mention it's all in the book.
Right.
Fred's new school is called Adolf Hitler Junior High School. And he talks about how because they were Polish,
right,
they were able to go to the school,
right,
even though they were Jewish.
Right.
This is a little bit of a longer section, but I've written a bunch of kids' books, and the kids' books are written from the perspective of a 10-year-old kid, and then he turns 11, and then he turns 12. But the mind, when I wrote them, of course, I kind of got myself into the mindset of a 10-year-old kid and what their thoughts are. And when I'm reading this section from the perspective of a 10-year-old kid or a 9-year-old kid, which Max was at the time, it's very hard to get through, to understand what it was like for kids. So this is from Max.
Yeah.
On October 28th, 1938, I am 9 years old and settling into fourth grade math class where we are working on the 8 times tables. Although it is not common on this day, I make an error in multiplying. My teacher approaches me and slaps me across the face. I am shocked. It's not the pain from the slap that upsets me. I am upset because no one has ever treated me like this at school before, and I don't know how to respond. For the moment, I choose to be quiet so as to not draw attention to myself again. I will have to think about what is happening here before I choose to act. My cheek burns from the slap and from shame. Later that day, 2 German SA officers known as stormtroopers or brown shirts come into the class and call out my name. I stand at my desk to acknowledge that they called me, wondering why. Did they somehow know about the math error for which I'd been slapped? My heart is pumping even harder than it was after the slap. The officers approach me, take me under their arms, and begin walking. I have no idea where we are going or why, but I have no choice but to go with them. I don't understand what is happening. The German SA officers don't explain anything, and I decide not to ask, despite being very frightened and wanting to know where they are taking me. They march me out of the school and through the town, never pausing or explaining to me what is happening. Along the way, we pass our synagogue, where people ask, "Where are you going?" I respond that I don't know. We march straight to the local jail, and they shove me behind bars without explanation. The jail is loud, confusing, and frightening. There are many other Polish Jews with me in jail. I can tell by their clothes that all of them were taken from their task at hand and brought directly there. There are women still wearing aprons from their cooking in their kitchens. Men are wearing suits from their work. Children have their school bags from the classroom. No one understands what is happening. Many keep asking for explanations, and some are crying. Jews of all ages and professions have been rounded up and brought to this jail. So, and he goes into this. He thinks that the reason that all this is happening in his mind is because he got a math problem wrong, and he continues to think that for a little while. Fast forward a little bit. The officers command everyone to listen up. All Polish Jews are being sent back to Poland. Dad says they call it the repatriation of Jews to Poland, but he says the truth is Polish Jews are now exiled from Germany. Shortly thereafter, everyone in jail is told to march in a group. And then here they go, getting on board of a train. As I climb onto the train, I realize it is packed with Polish Jews. There is no extra room at all. The doors are then locked. Dad says the train is moving toward Poland. Dad has to hand over almost all our money as well. No one resists this injustice, but our parents' faces show me how much of a problem this is for our family. Fast forward, it takes some time, but we can feel and hear the movement of the engine on the tracks as it leaves us behind. The guards unlock our train car and allow everyone to leave. Mom and Dad tell us that they saw a sign as we pulled into the station, and we are now in Sebastian, Poland. So they've been relocated. And at one point, and he tells a harrowing story in here where his mom and dad leave.
Right.
And they say, "Hey, you just stay here on the train."
Right.
And they leave to try and figure out what they're going to do. When they leave, the train starts to move.
Yeah.
And Max and his brothers don't know what to do, but they figure, their mom and dad had said, "Stay here, wait for us, we'll be back." So they decide they're going to jump out of the train.
Right.
So they throw their luggage and their bags and they jump out of the train. And it turns out that the train was just being kind of relocated on the tracks a little bit.
It was going back and forth a little bit.
But the just horror that forces them to make this split-second decision. And again, you're talking about kids. Talking about little kids.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So now they're in Poland. In the middle of November 1938, our parents decide to continue on to Brzesko. Oh.
Brzesko. Yes.
Brzesko, Poland, to Grandpa Schindler's house.
Right.
After 2 weeks, our parents tell us we are leaving. And again, I'm just reading some of the highlights to capture the story. Yeah, you got it. The detail that he puts in here is really powerful. After 2 weeks, our parents tell us we are leaving. This time we are going to get Grandma Schweid's home.
Right.
Her big farmhouse has enough space for all of us. Also, because the farm is in a small village out of the country, there seems to be less risk of German soldiers finding us. Mom and Dad let us know that this is where we plan to stay. Grandma's farm is self-sustaining with horses, cows, ducks, chickens, fields with crops, and a big garden. I'm not accustomed to this much farming, caring for animals, using an outhouse, and lighting kerosene lamps instead of turning on a switch. Fred feels the same, but we both know not to complain. This is our new life, and we need to adjust because there are no other options. We get lessons in all farm life topics because we must work the farm to help our family. Dad cannot sell liquor like he did before. He is now a farmer. While we are working in the fields, hoeing, picking, and planting, Dad teaches us about farming and our Jewish faith. The Polish kids are not kind to us or any of the Jewish children. The Jewish students stick together to avoid the Polish kids as much as possible. And fast forwarding here, as the war approaches, the hostility and aggression towards Jews gets noticeably worse. My Polish classmates harass me and want to fight with me. I get involved in some serious fights with these kids. Our fights often include throwing rocks into homes. The situation has become truly dangerous. I am fortunate to have my brother and cousins close by. When kids attempt to fight with me, I can always find support in family members. So fast forward a little bit, now the war kicks off. Within a day or two of the beginning of the war, the Poles align with the Germans. They put on German uniforms and want to be part of the German war effort. They call themselves the Polish Volksdeutsch and circulate rumors that the whole city is going to be gassed. The local people are very frightened and go indoors, sealing their windows and with tape to keep the gas out. All the villagers, including us, stay inside for 2 or 3 days. As a result, the streets are barren of people. This is how the Germans march in and take over the city without firing a single shot. The Germans now occupy all of Poland and have taken over. There is a real possibility of being captured during the German SS roundups. The Jews that are caught are sent into a ghetto or a concentration camp. My parents are frantic about this possibility and will do nearly anything to avoid it. They have heard about the horrors of life in the ghettos and the concentration camps. Our parents are now frightened and trying to find a safe place for us. I know. I am terrified. There doesn't seem to be any good choices left. So many things keep changing while we were in occupied Poland. The German officers nail orders to trees and signposts to communicate their latest edicts. This is how we learn that Jewish kids can no longer attend school. Another edict is posted in 1941, ordering all Jews to wear a Jewish star on their clothes over their heart. Mom sews the stars on our clothes for us while explaining that we must follow the orders in order to avoid being punished. We know that we may have lost their lives by resisting. We know that many have lost their lives by resisting. The Germans are dangerous and unpredictable, so we do what we are told. Many times the Germans march down the main street near Grandma's house. When this happens, news of the German soldiers coming travels quickly to the families. This time we hear about them from the neighbors and move hurriedly and quietly into the forest to hide. Mom grabs food and water because we may have to stay all day long or even overnight until the Germans leave the area. While we are hiding in the woods, Grandma stays in her store and acts relaxed and normal, serving the German soldiers to keep us safe. She tells them she is an old widow just trying to make a living. The soldiers must believe her because they do not search for us. Mom and Dad talk about how brave she is. Grandma's risking her life because if the soldiers found out she was hiding Jews on her farm, we would all certainly be shot. Yeah, this is a matter of years.
You had to have so much hope in situations like this, hoping that it's going to get better. Okay? Things will change. That's how a lot of us survived. Okay?
It's shocking to me how quickly all this happens and how you go even in your small village, you go, okay, well, there's 2,000 people in that village. It takes and it gets through that village pretty quickly. You can understand that. But now we're talking about all of Germany, all of Poland. This is before the internet. This is before cell phones. This is word of mouth and people nailing edicts to trees. And this transition from this idyllic situation for both your families and for the Jews in these situations to this horror in a matter of a couple of years.
Right. Unbelievable. While this was going on, nobody said a word. The whole world was quiet. Where was the world when this was going on?
On a personal level, what was it like with, a little Christian girl, a little girl that you knew that you played with, and then one day she doesn't play with you anymore?
Right. They started calling us dirty Jew, throwing rocks at us. They didn't want to have anything to do with us. And before that, most of